Boy, am I hungry. Ooh, what's this? A peanut butter and banana sandwich.
That lab experiment was crazy.
Yeah, it shrunk us down and everything.
This wouldn't happen in my old school. How do we get back? Look! A peanut butter and banana sandwich. My favorite. Hey guys, help me get on the sandwich.
This is so much fun.
Oh my gosh, no, guys, wait, what is she doing? I think she's picking it up.
Oh, this isn't gonna turn out well.
Breaking news, I'm elementary.
And I'm Diana Jess. This is Just In. 4 students from the Academy for the Arts, Science, and Technology have been eaten by their anatomy teacher. We don't know much right now, but we continue to relay the information about the story as we receive it.
As of right now, we know it started because of an anatomy lab gone wrong. Now, those 4 students are stuck inside of their teacher's digestive tract. Just seconds ago, they were in the oral cavity, or mouth, which begins the process of digestion.
You're correct, Allie. Here, food, in this case a peanut butter and banana sandwich, is chewed, mixed with saliva, and swallowed. The tongue is vital for chewing and swallowing this food. Hundreds of taste buds on the tongue detect salty, sweet, bitter, and sour tastes in the foods that they come into contact with.
The salivary glands keep the mouth moist and produce saliva, which lubricates the passageway for food in the oropharynx to the stomach. As of right now, we know that the kids have avoided being crushed by the teeth, which break down the sandwich by tearing, crushing, and grinding it before it heads into the stomach.
Let's cut to our nutrition specialist, Dr. Callie Siam, to find out a little more about what is happening to the nutrients in the sandwich as it travels along with the students.
Well, as you have said, digestion begins in the oral cavity. The mouth chews and grinds the peanut butter and banana sandwich into pieces that can be swallowed. But before we get into what happens to the nutrients in the sandwich, let me provide you with a little background about carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Carbohydrates provide the body with energy to support different functions of the body. In fact, they are the body's preferred fuel. Lipids are fatty acids that are insoluble in water. They contain triglycerides, which store energy long term, and cholesterol. Proteins are chains of amino acids that are used for functional and structural purposes. Some include hemoglobin, keratin, and insulin. Now back to digestion. The salivary amylase, which is secreted by the salivary glands, helps to break down the starch found in bread, peanut butter, and banana in simple sugars. The protein-rich peanut butter is moistened by the saliva in preparation for swallowing. The fiber in the food substances is still intact.
Thanks, Dr. Siam. We'll be checking back in with her soon to see what is happening to those 4 courageous students that take on the GI tract. Anything new, Diana?
Well, Allie, we just received news that the students are now in the pharynx. They are about to exit the oropharynx, which is a passageway for food located behind the oral cavity, and enter the laryngopharynx, which is also a passage for food that is continuous with the esophagus.
Our producers have just informed us that the students are beginning to slide down the esophagus. The esophagus connects the pharynx to the stomach. It also transports food and saliva into the stomach through the use of muscle contractions. These wave-like movements are known as peristalsis. These movements contribute to the overall propulsion or movement of food through the alimentary canal of the banana and peanut butter sandwich.
The sandwich and the students will soon pass through the cardioesophageal sphincter and into the stomach. When closed, this muscle prevents acid and stomach contents from traveling backwards into the esophagus, which would cause reflux.
Let's see what Dr. Siam has to say about the esophagus's role in the digestion of nutrients from a peanut butter and banana sandwich.
The chewed up food that has been swallowed is called a bolus. Nothing happens to it as it slides down the esophagus and through the cardioesophageal sphincter. The stomach is a whole different story, which I'll discuss in a few moments.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It has been confirmed that the students are now in the stomach. Here, the muscles will contract to churn the food and release enzymes and acids for the chemical breakdown of the sandwich.
The rugae, or folds in the stomach, unfold when the stomach needs to stretch to accommodate more food. The gastric juice secreted by the glands located in the rugae is highly acidic in order to break down foods. I hope those kids are okay in there, Diana. I feel like it isn't very safe to be standing in acidic liquids while being churned around and around and around and around.
I hope they are too, Allie. We have just been told that the students are passing through the pyloric sphincter. This muscle regulates digestion by holding food in the stomach until it opens to allow food to pass into the duodenum. After this, the muscle tightens back up to prevent reflux of food into the stomach.
While we wait to hear what happens next, let's check in with Dr. Siem to see what she has to say.
The bolus is now churned over and over again in the stomach due to peristalsis. Here the enzyme pepsin and hydrochloric acid breaks down the proteins in the saliva-covered peanut butter into amino acids and polypeptides. Amylase from saliva travels down to the stomach to continue to break down the starchy carbs. Once the carbohydrates are mixed with the gastric juices, carb digestion stops because the amylase has been deactivated. The lipids or fats in the bolus begin to separate after being mixed with water and gastric juices. The fiber from the sandwich remains intact. The rugae provide the stomach with an increased surface area for absorbing more nutrients. Before the pyloric sphincter opens, it holds the food in the stomach in order to allow gastric juices to break down the food into chyme. Chyme is simply partially digested food that has been mixed with gastric juices.
Thanks, doctor. If I have heard correctly, the students are now entering the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine. Here, most of chemical digestion, or the process by which molecules are broken down to monomers that can be absorbed by the GI tract, takes place. The duodenum prepares the chyme for absorption with the help of various secretions from the accessory organs.
Enough about that. The students have just arrived in the jejunum, or the second part of the small intestine. Its walls digest and absorb various nutrients from the blood. For those of you at home who don't know what absorption is, it is a passage of a substance into or across a blood vessel or membrane.
What's that? The students are entering where?
They're now in the ileum, Diana, the final part of the small intestine. Here, nutrients continue to be absorbed into the bloodstream.
The villi are finger-like projections which protrude from the intestinal folds. They aid in digestion by providing more places for nutrients to be absorbed and move food along at a faster pace. Within each individual villus, a network of capillaries and lymphatic cells, known as lacteal, helps to absorb dietary fats. Microvilli are part of the cells located in the intestinal walls and also help in digestion and absorption of nutrients from food. Let's find out what Dr. Siem has to say about that.
Now, the small intestine plays a huge role in digestion. Segmentation, or the process of mixing chyme and the small intestine to create a more uniform mixture, occurs here. The duodenum receives bile from the gallbladder to help digest lipids. Since lipids are insoluble in the water, they collect and form droplets. The bile secreted through the intestinal walls attaches to the droplets and breaks them up. Enzymes released from the pancreas also aid in their breakdown. After this, the lipids have been transformed into monoglycerides and fatty acids. Some of this fat is absorbed through the intestinal wall by the villi and the microvilli. This bile is also helpful for digesting the vitamin E that is in the bread and peanut butter, as well as the vitamin A in the banana. In the jejunum and ileum, the pancreatic enzymes as well as the intestinal enzymes begin to break down the starch into monosaccharides, so they can be absorbed through the intestinal walls. Protease from the pancreas is secreted into the small intestine to continue the breakdown of proteins. Once the protein is small enough, the amino acids are absorbed into the bloodstream and transported throughout the body. Vitamin C from the banana is absorbed through the walls along with the bile that helps break down the lipids.
Wow, a lot happens in the small intestine, but now the students are passing through the ileocecal valve. This is a sphincter muscle that opens to allow digested material to pass through and into the large intestine, and it closes to prevent backflow. Now that they've passed through here, they should be crossing the cecum, or the first part of the large intestine. This receives indigestible material from the small intestine and absorbs some of the remaining fluids and salts.
That's pretty cool. Well, they have just set food in the colon, which is divided into 4 different parts, but we won't get into that now. Here, food that wasn't previously digested is stored, electrolytes are absorbed, and waste is prepared for elimination.
It seems like the large intestine plays a big role in digestion of nutrients. Let's find out more. Dr. Siem?
Well, yes, but not exactly. Since most of the digestion occurs in the small intestine, the large intestine simply prepares indigestible material from the small intestine for excretion. Water and salt left over in the chyme are absorbed. Some fiber is able to be digested here as well.
Wow, that's crazy. The students are now waiting in the rectum, or the temporary storehouse for waste material. I feel like they aren't going to enjoy what happens next.
What? Once they pass the anus, which is the opening at the end of the alimentary canal, where waste leaves the body, they will... Oh.
Yep, Allie, defecation. The elimination of indigestible substances from the body. The kids are going to be...
Oh my gosh, they're gonna be... Diana, it's just in. Defecation is currently happening.
Maybe Dr. CM has something interesting to talk about. Let's check it out.
Well, Diana, since the human body cannot digest most fiber, it is passed from the large intestine to the rectum to be dumped from the body through the anus. The body has now gone through chemical digestion, as you girls mentioned earlier, and mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion is better known as chewing, mixing, churning, and segmentation of food throughout the digestive tract. There are some accessory organs which aid the digestive system as it works to break down nutrients. The pancreas secretes digestive enzymes into the small intestine through the pancreatic ducts. These enzymes break down fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. The liver secretes bile, which helps digest fats. It also processes the nutrients absorbed by the small intestine and makes chemicals needed for the body. The gallbladder stores the liver bile and releases it into the duodenum through bile ducts.
We have just been informed that the students are safely back on their feet in the school building. They seem to be in good health, but the same can't be said about their clothing. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in at the 11 o'clock news tonight. I'm Alimentary,
And I'm Diana Jest,
signing off.
This is the path that the sandwich and the students took. They entered through the oral cavity. The next stop was the esophagus. From the esophagus, they entered into the stomach. Then they were passed into the small intestine. They continued their path through the large intestine. From the large intestine, they entered into the rectum. Then they were moved into the anus, where they were excreted with other bodily waste.